Spring is on its way and it's time to get busy in the garden. But what if you live in a rental flat with no garden? In that case, you might have a plot, an allotment garden.
Welcome to YD. Why do Germans do things the way they do?
In the Middle Ages, it was still common for everyone to have a garden, by their house, whether in the countryside or in the city. But following industrialization and rural exodus, towns became increasingly densely populated and built up, and a large part of the population grew poorer. This is where the first part of the history of allotment gardens begins. From 1797 onwards, Landgraf Karl of Hesse-Kassel established poor people's gardens, where the poor could cultivate a small plot of land and harvest their own fruit and vegetables at low cost. By 1826, these gardens already existed in 19 German cities and continued to develop, whether under the patronage of the German Red Cross, as workers' gardens or railway workers' gardens. In Kiel around 1830, the plot size of 400 square meters, still in use today, was established. In the mid-19th century, the Schrebergärten emerged, named in memory of the Leipzig doctor Moritz Schreber. Together with Karl Ernst Bock and Ernst Innozenz Hausschild, they had the idea of promoting better health through good food and exercise. In memory of the late Moritz Schreber, they named a playground in Schreberplatz. Here children of factory workers could play and do gymnastics under supervision. Gardens were then laid out around the meadow, which were eventually taken over and tended by the children's parents. These gardens came to be known as Schrebergärten. The garden tenants founded their first Schreber Association. The historic Dr. Schreber site is now a listed building and houses the German Allotment Garden Museum. In 1909, the Zentralverband Deutscher Arbeiter- und Schrebergärten, Central Association of German Workers and Allotment Gardens, was founded. In 1916, the Reich government established the Zentralstelle für den Gemüseanbau in Kleingärten, Central Office for Vegetable Growing in Allotment Gardens. After the First World War, food was in short supply, and the importance of self-sufficiency in fresh fruits and vegetables increased. In 1919, the first Kleingarten- und Kleinpachtlandordnung, Allotment and Small Holdings Ordinance, was introduced in Germany. In 1921, the Reichsverband der Kleingartenvereine Deutschlands, Reich Association of Allotment Garden Association of Germany, was founded. This type of garden spread throughout Germany, particularly in towns and cities, and also across large parts of Europe. 14 national European allotment garden organizations joined force to form the Office International du Coin de Terre et de Jardins Familiaux, which was founded in Luxembourg on 3rd of October 1926. After the Second World War, there were allotment garden associations in both East and West Germany, which reunited after reunification to form today's Bundesverband der Kleingartenvereine Deutschlands e.V., Federal Association of Allotment Gardens Associations of Germany. We wouldn't be Germany if we didn't have our own law on allotment gardens, the Bundeskleingartengesetz, Federal Allotment Garden Law. Everything has to be in order after all. Allotment gardens are typically organized within a Kleingartenverein, an allotment association. It is also possible for plots to be leased directly by the local council or the railway company. In such cases, it is important to have a long-term lease agreement. In some towns and municipalities, plots are also leased directly, although there is sometimes a blurred distinction between Grabeland, allotments which are only let on a short-term basis, often as a temporary solution until the land is developed, for example, and allotment garden sites. A typical allotment garden is a maximum of 400 square meters in size and is enclosed by a hedge or fence, which must be not higher than 1,50 meter. The entire site is intended to serve as a community project, so one should not isolate oneself from others within one's plot. A Laube, Gazebo, may be erected on the plot, a small structure with a maximum floor area of 24 square meters. A third of the plot must be used for specific purposes. At least one third must be used to grow fruit and vegetables. A further third must be used for ornamental plants and lawns. No more than one third may be occupied by the gazebo, a terrace, passes, and the like. The gazebo may not be used as a permanent residence either. The lease for such a plot is relatively inexpensive by law. It amounts only around 20 cents per square meter per year. Added to this is a membership fee and, as the largest item, ancillary costs such as insurance and local council charges. In total, and on average, however, this still amounts to only around €400 per year. This can vary depending on the region. It is likely to be more expensive in large cities than in smaller towns. The arbor and similar structures are usually taken over by the previous tenant, which can sometimes cost a few €1,000. Of course, you have to do the same when you eventually hand the plot over to the next tenant. In addition, there are a few duties within the allotment association, such as cleaning communal areas, clearing passes, and pruning trees or hedges. In return, the association often provides support and training and frequently offer a clubhouse, which is sometimes equipped with a cafe and is often open to the general public. The clubhouse can often be hired for celebrations such as birthdays and weddings. In allotment associations, cultivation is often carried out organically and within minimal use of pesticides. Thanks to the wide variety of plants, including flowering plants and other measures, allotments are often an oasis for insects and also a recreational space in the city for people. Whilst the tenants are often older people, young people are also joining in increasing numbers, and there's almost always a playground to be found on communal grounds. If you look at the members of the Office International du Coin de Terre et des Jardins Familiaux, you can see that Germany, with a good 1.4 million allotment gardens, is followed by Poland with nearly 1 million. In other parts of the world, too, there are experiments with allotments aimed specifically at providing food security for people living in poverty. Quite apart from being able to harvest healthy, fresh fruit and vegetables yourself, an allotment is a great way to make new friends. Neighbors often have time for a chat and some good advices on how to grow better strawberries or protect carrots from pests. And although the majority of allotment holders are still traditional Germans, the number of people from migrant background is increasing. So why not see if you can find an allotment nearby and watch the odd sunset from under your arbor? It's certainly an opportunity to get in touch with people who have good connections in the city and might even know where a new flat is available or a job is up for grabs.
Remarks, addition, and comments in the comments. Thank you for your attention. See you in the next video.